It's April 28th, 2025, and time for your Monday market update. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to take a quick look at your McHenry County numbers for the last 7 days, and then we're going to dive into it because I've got a lot to comment on our housing market today. So we had 190 new listings. We had 152 go under contract, and that is a huge difference, right? So we've got about 40 more homes listed than went under contract, but that sounds like we're getting more inventory, but I don't think it's true. We're going to dive into that in just a moment. We had 77 closed sales, 28 price changes, 0 expireds, and 77 on the private network. Now, I'm going to explain some of these because remember, these are the same numbers that I've been tracking for the last 5 years. So when I look back at data from previous years, there's some interesting things going on. One of which is that new listing number. So it says 190 new listings in McHenry County in the last 7 days. When I actually click on that number in the MLS and start looking at these homes, a lot of them are already under contract, meaning they sold while they were listed on the private network. So that's part of it. The other part, a lot of them are already under contract because they sell very quickly. Because as we know, we have very low inventory still in McHenry County. So homes are selling in a few days, a lot of times, if they're priced right and they're moving ready. The other thing that we have with that is that our price changes are only 28, which is actually low. In 2023, and I looked at my numbers for 2024 as well, they're all about the same. So under contract, we had 152 this year. This week in 2023, we had 155, and this week in 2024, we had 154. So they're all about the same number. So we've had about the same number of homes going under contract for the last 3 years this week, consecutively years, these weeks compared to, you know what I mean. But we had far less price changes this week than we had in previous years. So a lot of those new listings are actually not new. They are homes that had price improvements, and so they canceled them and relisted. Now, I do that myself with my listings. It's a way to get new eyeballs, to get the home resent to people looking like a new listing to try and get activity. So there's nothing sinister about it or anything. It's just a strategy. But it skews the numbers a little bit. So when it says that we have 40 new listings more than went under contract, that's not the case. So we don't have as many new listings as it would appear. It looks like we're getting somewhere in our inventory when really we're not. The other thing that's happening is a lot of these homes that are being listed as new were under contract. I did that with one of mine. It was under contract. The buyer financing fell apart at the last minute, which is so sad and so crappy. It's crappy for everybody involved. But we're having contracts falling apart at 16% in this market. And so that is a natural thing that's happening, is that when a home falls out, the contract falls apart for whatever reason, the listing gets canceled and then relisted as new. So a lot of different things are happening in this market that make it kind of difficult to figure out what's going on and how do you navigate it. So let me tell you a couple of things. One of which, a big question that I get from people that come through open houses is, well, why are contracts falling apart at a higher rate now? Couple reasons. One of which is that with such a competitive market, many buyers are feeling discouraged when they write multiple offers. They write offers and offers and offers. Maybe they've written 5 or 6 offers and they get frustrated, and then they find a house that they really want and they just start throwing money at it. And so they're writing an offer that they don't know what the payment's going to be. They don't talk to their lender. And then they wake up the next morning, they go, oh my gosh, what have I done? I can't afford that house. The payment's going to be too much. I paid too much for the house. I don't want to pay that much for the house, but I got all caught up in the multiple offer situation. So that's one. So 2 is that a lot of times the banks are being more stringent. Back in 2008, we had a recession, huge recession, the Great Recession, in fact. And that was largely caused by poor mortgage practices. And now we have mortgage restrictions and rules and laws to follow that make it more difficult to get a loan, thankfully, because it makes it for a much safer mortgage market. But sometimes we have what's called the second employment verification right before closing, where the bank is going to call the employer of the borrower and say, hey, so that person still has a job, right? Well, if their employment status changed at all, then a lot of times they'll get declined. Recently, one of my listings, the buyer went on a family medical leave act, which they're allowed to do. Their child got sick. They took some time off of work to take care of their child, but that is considered a break in employment, and banks don't like to see that. So those people got declined for their mortgage, which totally sucks. So I don't want to make it sound like that's, excusable, because it's not. I think it's a terrible thing. And I'm glad that we have a safer mortgage market, but boy, does that suck for those people. But that's the reality. So A lot of these homes that are getting relisted, the buyers might not be able to complete their financing for a number of reasons. We also have unemployment that's going up. So maybe somebody lost their job right before closing and then they're not going to get their loan either. So there's a lot of different factors that are leading to these numbers being kind of nuts and kind of hard to understand, because some homes are selling in, a couple of days and they're going under contract with multiple offers and over list price and all the things. And then other homes are sitting. And it's like, well, why? Well, number one is effective pricing. So when you're selling a home, you have to be really careful about what you list your house at. The list price has to be the starting. It has to be an effective price. Gone are the days, and I've talked about this before, gone are the days where you list at $600 and expect to sell at $575. That is not the world we live in anymore. I don't know if that will ever be the world we live in anymore. I know that's the way it was before COVID, that you would list it. We're like, oh, well, we'll list here and we'll hope to get this. That is not it. Most buyers are looking at your list price as the starting price, not the finishing price. Buyers are looking at your list price and saying, okay, well, it's only going to go up from there. So if your house should sell at $575 and you list at $600, you're going to get zero buyers even coming through your home, because they're going to think, oh my gosh, I have to bring at least $610, $615, $620, maybe even more. So I don't even want to look at that home if it's already listed at $600 and I don't want to pay $600. So if you're not listing your home appropriately at the right price the first time, then the house is going to sit. So, but in this market, because buyers know that homes sell so fast, if it doesn't sell right away, then they're like, well, what's wrong with it? Why didn't it sell in 5 days? Now I think that maybe I can get a deep discount on it because there's something wrong. So the strategy in this market makes it very, very tricky, and you have to be very cautious about what you list your home at, the condition of the property. Another factor, if your home has projects, it used to be, I talked to some buyers who bought their first home in, like, let's say the 80s or something, like they're baby boomers, right? Or maybe early, older Gen Xers. Those people bought a home and they go, okay, we know that we're going to do projects on the house. We expect that. That is the expectation, that when we walk into a home, we know that there's going to be things that we're going to have to do to the home, because it's a home. It's not, just a pair of shoes. But the buyer in today's market does not have extra money. They are putting all of their money into their down payment, and they do not have any extra money to do any projects. So if your home has projects, I always say that they're going to count on their hand. Not really, but sort of mentally. They're walking through your home and they're ticking off on their fingers. And if they get to 5 things that they have to do on your home, like maybe they have to do some flooring, maybe the bathrooms need to be updated, maybe the house has to be painted, maybe the exterior needs some landscaping, maybe the roof needs to be, repaired or replaced. They're moving on. They're buying another house. They're going to just wait. Even in a market where there's not nothing to buy, but when there's slim pickings and it's tight inventory, they are still not going to buy your house if there's more than 5 things to do. They're just not. And so you have to be aware that your house has to be pretty much move-in ready, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 projects. But if they have more than that, they're not going to buy it. And if you want those multiple offers, you better have 0 projects. Now, it could be dated. It could be maybe not the most attractive home, but if it's well maintained, you can still get those multiple offers as long as it's priced effectively. So this market is really tricky. You really have to understand the mind of the buyer, the, kind of what's happening in our environment. You have to know how to price. And as a buyer, you have to know kind of what are you willing to do? What are your exceptions that you're willing to make on the home that you want to buy? What is the most important thing to you, the non-negotiable? And then what are maybe some things that you can be a little bit flexible on, because also there are no perfect homes. I have some clients that come to me and they say, well, if the house is perfect, I'm willing to spend X. Well, then you're not willing to spend X, because there is no perfect home. Every home that you're going to walk into is going to have something that you're going to want to change, maybe 1 or 2 small things. Perfection is not a realistic option in real estate and in life. Don't ever go for perfect. It'll always bite you in the butt. Anyway, if you have any more questions about this or trying to navigate this difficult market, please call me or come to our seller seminar. We've got a seller seminar coming up on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock at Duke's Ale House. I would love to have you there. I'm buying food and I'm buying drinks. So come, it's on me. And we're going to talk about the real estate market and the best ways to get your home sold fast for more money. Thanks so much for watching.